What is the worst lie someone has told you and expected you to believe? If you enjoy this video, please subscribe to my channel, where I upload daily videos. When I was 16, a boy gave me a card that he had handwritten a long, sweet poem inside. I, of course, thought was cutest, sweetest thing ever. About a month later, I'm in a Hallmark store looking through cards, trying to find one I could give him in return. Open a card, find exact poem he had written for me. I told him I saw the card he copied the poem from. He claims he wrote it, sent it into Hallmark for a contest. He won and it was published. Kids have the worst lies. My niece made a bowl of ice cream for herself when she wasn't allowed to. When confronted, she said the cat made the bowl and ate it, not her. I agree. When I was 3 years old, I drew a giant caterpillar on the wall in my infant brother's room. It was 4 feet long, had a caption that said hi and was signed with my name. I still tried to convince my mother that my little brother did it. I had a boyfriend who, whilst being drunk one night, told a wonderful tale. He confessed to me that he used to be a big-time coke dealer, but of course he has given it up. One night when he was making a deal, a member of his own gang shot him 3 times. His friend put him in the back seat to drive him to the hospital. He was so afraid of getting busted that he dug the bullets out of his body and sewed himself up with fishing line. Now, when this supposedly happened years previous, we worked together. The best part, I bet you didn't even notice when I came to work that day that I had been shot the night before. When I was in middle school, the neighbor kids who lived next to me, twins, stole my copy of Super Mario Advance 2. I didn't realize until I played their copy and saw my save file. They said it fell out of a tree on their way home from school. Their parents believed them. When I was a tiny little boy, my older sister told me that the grass on our lawn wasn't actually a form of plant life at all. As it turns out, grass is actually the hair of huge trolls that sleep just under the ground. She warned me that if I were to disturb their sleep by ripping out some of the grass, then the trolls would crawl out of the ground during the night, reach a vile hand through my window and snatch me up from my bed before eating me alive. My mother found out about this after wondering why the heck I was standing in the garden desperately apologizing to the grass. She told me it was a lie, but I still never quite trusted gardens since then. When I was in 6th grade, our science teacher told us that a worm lived next to your butthole and that when you fart, it releases eggs into the air. The people that smelled the fart were essentially breathing in butthole worm eggs. The English teacher added to it by saying that when we laugh at hearing people fart, we are just eating the butthole worm eggs. Not a lie told to me, but rather a lie I told my sister. Coleslaw is actually fish brains. So when her 2nd grade teacher ate some at lunch, my sister made a huge scene and ended up in detention. I knew a kid in middle school who was full of the stupidest lies you've ever heard. It must have been compulsive because it was obvious that no one believed him and he would never back down when questioned. I distinctly remember a conversation with him in which he claimed to speak 7 languages. My friend and I asked him what languages, and he couldn't even name 7 languages. He tried to convince us that African was a language and he spoke it. On another occasion, he tried to convince us that he owned a pen that cost $1 million. You'd think a 6th grader could think of something a little more impressive, but no, just a pen. One of my ex-friends told me that she was mugged at her bus stop. Except that she was holding a bag of vegetables, so when he said, "Give me your bag," she handed him the vegetables. He was apparently a bit stunned by this and took the vegetables, said thanks and left. He kept showing up at her bus stop after that, and the same thing would happen. He would try to mug her and she would give him vegetables. She packed more now. Then one time a prostitute saw her with him and said something like, "He's my man." And she saw something silver flash near her eyes, but then the mugger jumped in front of her and saved her eyesight because it was probably a knife. I had 2 friends, roommates, that I used to love to hang out with. As I was getting to know them, we'd all share our funniest/most outrageous stories and experiences. Some of their stories seemed kind of improbable, but I didn't think much of it. One day one of them starts telling me this story about learning to drive in a busted up old pickup truck, unsupervised, at the age 12, without rear view mirrors. The brakes go out, they end up slowly creeping down a dirt road, backwards and unable to see. The truck ends up sliding partially off an embankment, with the driver door pinned against a tree. She had to crawl out the passenger side window. The passenger side door was jammed, not realizing that the driver's side door wouldn't open because the truck was being pinned/held up by a tree. Now the funny thing is, I knew all the details of the story because it had happened to me. I had told her about it a few months back and she regurgitates it as if it was her own. I never called her on it, but the longer I knew them, the more they both would do this, recounting stuff to me that I had told them about. I told it. There was a girl in my high school who was very book smart, valedictorian, actually, but a little naive. I had her convinced for most of a day that you had to be 21 to legally order rum raisin ice cream from Baskin-Robbins. She was unhappy with me for a while. When I was in 5th grade, my friend really wanted this Yu-Gi-Oh card. He said his dad was the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh cards and would stop making them if they didn't trade him the cards he wanted. In 4th grade, my friend told me he'd been in a hot air balloon and told me that clouds tasted like strawberries. The amount of months I spent with my mouth wide open to a stormy sky like a damn turkey is disturbing at best. The fat kid in my neighborhood came over while my family was having pizza. He told us he needed to try a slice because he had tried every pizza in the phone book, except this one. I had a friend who fell over and grazed his knee. He then said that he had torn all the cartilage in his knee along with all the nerve endings and that he now had no feeling in his lower leg. Nobody bought it, but for some reason this guy started to get more and more elaborate. He started claiming that the bones in his lower leg had been removed and replaced by a titanium pole. He kept telling this same damn lie for like 2 months. I had a friend in high school who said she had a boyfriend in Virginia. We lived in California. One Monday morning I asked how her weekend was and she proceeded to tell me how she got to visit her boyfriend without her parents even knowing. She said a helicopter came in the middle of the night and got her out of the house through her room and took her to Virginia. The helicopter also took them to some snowy mountain where she made snow angels for the first time, and then took her home before her parents even noticed she was gone. The lies somehow got worse and more bizarre through our years in high school. I'm a cop, so people lie to me all the time. The other day I caught a guy who had just stolen some kid's bike. He actually fled from me first on the bike, then crashed into an 8-year-old boy on the bike and then continued running on foot. I hadn't even put cuffs on him yet, let alone say anything about the bike, and he blurted out I didn't steal that bike. He then went on to explain that the kid said that he could hold his bike for a while. He didn't know the kid's name and had no explanation for riding 10 blocks away with it. He also told me that he didn't know I was chasing him. But my favorite, and a reoccurring joke among my friends, are the people who say these aren't my pants when they know I'm about to find something on them they shouldn't have. Multiple people have said that to me trying to hide heroin and even a gun. A kid I used to go to school with when I was 15/16 told me that his granddad lost an arm in a chainsaw juggling accident, and when I brought the story up a month later he denied he'd said it. He also told me that he killed a guy when he was 8, and that, this was a bizarre one, he had to pay extra money at the barber's because he had Chinese hair. He was not Chinese, by the way, at all. Everything that guy said was absolute crap, but it was so ridiculous, it was almost hilarious. Some guy told my friend that he saw a guy get executed by firing squad. My friend said they don't do that anymore. He then replied with, well, it was in Texas, so. I have an older sister who was imaginative. She told me that when fireflies glow that means they're about to pee, so I spent a summer running inside at the first sight of one. She told me Duracell batteries had jelly beans in the gold end and provided me with AA. I spent 2 weeks chewing on it trying to get jelly beans. Also, the toilet was a jacuzzi and she tried to flush me away. The worst was when she told me I was adopted. She came up with this huge explanation about all the ways I was different from everyone in the family. How she remembered seeing me at the orphanage, it was a lot like Annie. I spent months being pissed at everyone for lying to me. My parents finally asked what was wrong with me. They assumed most of it was the angst of youth. I started crying, told them I knew the truth and asked about my real parents. They called my sister into the room because I wasn't being clear. My guess is the crying got in the way. Sister starts laughing once she pieces some words together. Says she forgot she told me I was adopted, so my freak out was especially hilarious. Explains to mom and dad, tells me it was a lie and she couldn't believe I bought it. She stopped laughing when she got grounded. My sister and I were raised in private schools. When I was just a tot, she convinced me that the whole respect your elders thing from the Bible meant that if I didn't immediately do something anyone older than I was told me to, then a gaping hole to hell would open where I was standing. From then on I lived in fear that if I didn't bring her ice cream right away I'd burn in hell for the rest of my life. When my little brother was younger, 6 to 10 years old, he would steal all sorts of things from the stores we visited. When my parents asked him where he was getting all these new things, he would tell them that the stores gave them to him for being good. Family friend told us that her son got offered not one, but both of the NASA internships for the same position, and that he was trained as a fighter pilot in an afternoon and now is part of the CIA's personal air force. I remember in first grade I had this frenemy named Paris. She was a stuck-up little bitch for a 7-year-old. She would always tell the other kids lies about how her family was rich and she was really a princess, and general shit like that. Anyway, one day she brought in a blue, plastic, heart-shaped necklace for show and tell. She got up in front of the whole class and told everyone it was the heart of the ocean, and her rich grandmother dove down into the shipwreck of the Titanic to retrieve it for her. The teacher just burst out laughing and told her to sit down. It was the best day ever in first grade. My friend told me in like the 5th grade that he snuck out one night and stole a car. He then got caught and went to juvie, which is like child prison, and suffered electroshock torture and broke out. Then continued to walk home and hitchhiked on a fire truck. We lived near a fire station and that's how he got a scar on his hand. Found poop on our floor behind the couch. Asked our 3-year-old about it. I think it was a bird. An acquaintance told me he had a pet freshwater octopus. I told him I didn't think that they lived in freshwater, but he said there were many different types. Not really the worst, just really stupid and pointless. As always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, show your support. Leave your thoughts and opinions down below.